Baby, the question I'd been running from finally found me at the kitchen table, between the sound of boiling tea and the soft thud of my mother setting down 2 cups. She didn't circle around it. She didn't give me a way out. She just looked straight into me like only a mother can and asked, "Who is she? And why does your whole spirit change when I say her name?" I felt my chest tighten, the old defenses rushing up like waves. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to hide. I couldn't. Not from the way your name keeps the lights on in a house that's been dim for months. Not from the way every quiet night turns your memory into a cathedral and makes me kneel. I tried to speak and nothing came, because the moment I pulled your name from my mouth, the room shifted, like the walls were listening, like the ceiling was holding its breath. I told her I was fine. She stared at my shaking hands and said, "No, you're not. Tell me about the girl who taught you how to breathe softer." Baby, I swear, I could hear the echo of your laughter in the old hallway, as if you had just left and something in me broke. Not the loud kind that shatters glass, but the holy kind that frees a caged bird. I took a breath that tasted like truth and said, "Mom, I can't hide it anymore." I told her about the way you listen like prayer, how you never once tried to fix me. You just held a space big enough for my storms to tire themselves out. I told her about quiet mornings where your voice felt like warm light moving through a cold room, and about the nights where you reminded me I am not my mistakes, I am my mercy. I told her how you never asked to be promised the future. You only asked me to be honest in the present. And every time I reached for silence, you reached for my hand and whispered, "I'm here." Mom's eyes softened at that. She said she hadn't seen that boy, the gentle one, the hopeful one, in a long time. She said his name came back the day your name did. But then she asked the question that made my throat burn. If she is your peace, why did you bury her behind your pride? I didn't have a pretty answer. I only had the ugly truth. That fear made a home in me long before love tried to move in. Fear of being seen too deeply. Fear that I'd ruin anything holy if I touched it with these trembling hands. So I kept you in the shade, told myself I was protecting us, when really I was protecting the part of me that still believed I wasn't worthy of something that pure. My mother didn't scold me. She pressed her palm over mine like she was stopping a wound and said, "A man isn't measured by how tightly he holds his pride, but by how quickly he drops it when he recognizes his blessing." Baby, I swear, those words hit like thunder rolling over a quiet lake. I told her about that day the world tried to twist your name, how the air got thick with opinions and old stories distorted for sport. How I sat there, every muscle ready to fight, but the right words stuck in my teeth. I told her how you didn't defend yourself. You didn't need to. The truth stood on its own, and my mother saw it. She told me she had watched me become softer with you, watched the anger leave my jaw, watched the boy in me let the man breathe. She said, "Anyone who brings this house back its light is family, even if the door hasn't opened yet." I held my breath so hard my ribs hurt, because in that moment I knew it. You didn't just pass my test, you passed hers without ever showing up to take it. Baby, forgiveness began right there, quietly, in the clink of porcelain and the sound of a mother choosing the truth over the easy story. She didn't ask for screenshots, didn't ask for timelines, didn't ask for who said what. She asked one thing: did you become a better man when she loved you? And I said yes. I said yes with tears I tried to hide and couldn't. I said yes with the kind of honesty that leaves a taste of metal in your mouth because it's slicing through old lies. Mom nodded. Then stop letting fear raise its voice in this house, she said. Love is either honored out loud or it's dishonored by silence. So here I am, baby, honoring you out loud. I told her about the first time I realized you were different. How your silence wasn't a weapon, it was a shelter. How you never demanded I be perfect. You only asked me to be present. How you would notice the way my breathing changed when anxiety crawled up my spine. And you'd slow your own breath until mine followed. Two hearts pacing each other back from the lead. I told her that in a world obsessed with being seen, you taught me the holiness of being understood. That your love didn't chase applause. It built altars in the unseen corners and invited me to kneel. My mother smiled the kind of small smile people save for sacred things. That sounds like a woman's scent, she whispered. But I didn't just bring her the light. I brought her the shadow too. I told her how I flinched when the future felt too real, and how my flinch bruised what was gentle. I told her how I let people who never touched our devotion try to measure it with dirty rulers. How I allowed rooms you were never in to speak about you so loudly that my silence sounded like agreement. Mom's face hardened at that. Then learn, she said, not cruelly, but like a door opening. A man's voice must be strongest when the person he loves isn't there to defend herself. If you love her, you build a wall around her name, and you become the gate. Baby, I felt those words brand themselves into me. Gate, wall, keeper, not owner, protector. I wanted to promise the world right then, to sprint out of the house and find you and declare everything on the nearest rooftop. But I have learned the weight of vows that outrun the man making them. So I told my mother, and I tell you now, not promises dressed in poetry, but commitments that have bones. I will not love you in the shadows and call it safety. I will not let my ego edit the truth until it fits the room. I will not lie to myself about what we are just to make other people comfortable. If love is holy, I will handle it like something holy. Carefully, consistently, out loud. Baby, something else happened at that table. Something I didn't expect. My mother asked if you'd ever come by again, in any way, even just her voice. She said, even just her laughter on speaker. I realized then that she had been listening the whole time, through the walls, through the quiet, through the way my feet got lighter after talking to you. She had been keeping count of my silent smiles like prayer beads. She had made room for you in her heart in the only way she could with the information she had, by trusting the transformation she saw in me. Do you know what that did to me? It made me brave. It made me honest. It made me understand that love doesn't need a crowd's permission to be true. It needs a home willing to witness it. So baby, this is me. No more detours, no more half light. If there is any doorway still cracked open between us, I'm at it now, not banging, not begging, waiting, steady, present. I am learning to be a man whose love can hold weight without dropping what it swore to protect. If grace still lives between your ribs when you hear my name, let it know I am tending to the garden it asked for, pulling out the old weeds of shame and planting a faith that doesn't wilt when questioned. And if you need time, I will honor time. If you need proof, I will become proof. If you need quiet, I will keep it. Except where your name is concerned, that I will guard loudly. I will correct the record. I will shut the door on lies with a gentle hand and an unshakable voice. Because the next time someone asks me about you, whether it's my mother, my past, or the mirror at 3 a.m., I won't swallow your name like a secret. I will lift it like a prayer. I will say, she is the woman who taught my heart its own language, and I will speak it openly. If your spirit felt any of this, if your chest loosened even a little, write one word below so I know you're with me. Seen. And if you want me to keep going, I will. Deeper, truer, braver. Because this time, baby, the story won't be told in whispers. It will be written in daylight, baby. After that conversation with my mom, I couldn't breathe the same anymore. Something inside me had cracked open. I sat alone that night in the living room, the same room where we once stayed up till sunrise talking about everything and nothing, and I realized how long I'd been living half alive. Every time I pretended I'd moved on, every time I told myself I was fine, I was really just rearranging the silence so it wouldn't echo your name too loudly, but the truth was still there, beating beneath every heartbeat. Your name, your presence, your energy. My mom's words kept replaying. Love is either honored out loud, or it's dishonored by silence. I kept hearing it like a mantra, like a prophecy, and I knew what she meant. She wasn't just talking about you. She was talking about the way I had been living. Small, hidden, safe. The way I let fear sit at the head of every decision table in my life. I had built my world around avoidance, not around truth. But that night something shifted. I realized I couldn't keep hiding the very thing that brought me back to life. You know, baby, it's strange how confession doesn't start with courage. It starts with breaking. And I broke. Quietly. I remember sitting there with my mother's teacup still on the table, tracing the rim with my finger, whispering your name under my breath like it was a prayer I was scared to say too loudly. And then I whispered, I miss her, out loud for the first time, and the air in the room changed. It felt lighter, but heavier at the same time. Like the truth had been waiting years just to be spoken. My mom walked back into the room. She must have heard me. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me and said softly, then tell her. Those words hit me like lightning. Tell her. As if it were that simple. But maybe love really is simple when you stop fighting it. Maybe we're the ones who make it complicated. Layering it with pride, with rules, with the ghosts of everything that went wrong before. So here I am, telling you what I couldn't say then. I couldn't hide it anymore, baby. Not from her, not from me, not from the way the world feels colder without you in it. Every time I pass that coffee shop where you used to wait for me, every time I scroll past a song we once shared, every time the rain hits the window like fingertips, I feel the truth pressing at my chest. I still love you. I never stopped. And I told her that. I told my mom everything. I told her how your voice sounded when you were trying to hide your laughter. I told her how your texts could pull me out of the darkest day like they carried light in every word. I told her how you prayed for me even when I didn't deserve it, how you stayed when I was impossible to love, how you saw something in me that even I didn't see. And as I spoke, tears started rolling down her cheeks, not because she was sad, but because she understood. She said, that's what real love does. It teaches everyone who witnesses it what faith looks like. I broke then, completely. I realized that maybe this entire time heaven was trying to teach me through you. You weren't sent to fix me. You were sent to reveal me, to show me the man I could become if I stopped running from what was real. And that night, when I finally stopped hiding, I felt something lift off my soul, like the universe had been holding its breath, waiting for me to tell the truth. Baby, I think my mother saw it too, the way my eyes softened, the way my voice trembled when I said your name. She didn't interrupt, she didn't judge, she just whispered, "Then go where your peace leads you." And that sentence has been echoing ever since. Peace. That's what you always were. My peace in chaos, my clarity in confusion, my calm in the middle of 1,000 storms. You were never my escape. You were my grounding. And I ran from that because I wasn't ready to face the version of me who could love you properly. But I'm ready now. I couldn't hide it anymore, baby. I couldn't pretend that your memory didn't still pulse through my veins. I couldn't keep lying to the people who love me, pretending I had moved on when every part of me still circles back to you. The truth is, every sunrise without you feels incomplete, like a sentence missing its final word. And now even my mother knows. When she asked me, what did you tell her when she asked who you are to you? I looked at her with eyes full of tears and said, "Mom, do whatever you want, say whatever you need to, but she's my truth. Because that's what you are, baby. My truth, my mirror, my unfinished prayer." And maybe that's why the angels keep whispering your name back into my life, through dreams, through songs, through strangers who look at me and remind me of the way you did, with knowing, not curiosity. So, if you ever wonder what happened after the silence, know this: the truth made its way home, and this time, I won't bury it, not in fear, not in pride, not in distance. If your soul is hearing these words, if your chest feels that quiet pull, write one word below so I know heaven's message reached you: truth. Because this story isn't ending in secrecy anymore. It's beginning in honesty. And baby, I'm finally ready to speak your name out loud. Baby. When I looked into my mother's eyes that night, everything inside me stilled. You know how sometimes a single moment feels like it holds 1,000 years? That's what it was. Her eyes were full of memories. Some I had lived, some she had watched me live from the doorway, too afraid to interfere. There was worry in them, but also something softer, something ancient, like she already knew what I was about to confess before I said it. I swallowed hard. The words were heavy, but they had been waiting too long. My heart was thundering, my throat tight, my palms shaking, but I said it anyway. "Mom, do whatever you want, but she's my peace." I didn't even plan those words. They came out on their own, straight from somewhere deeper than logic or pride. And in that instant, everything that had been buried started rising. I wasn't speaking like a son defending a choice. I was speaking like a man defending his soul. I told her that this wasn't some passing phase or youthful confusion. I told her you weren't just another love. I told her you were the love, the kind that rearranges the bones of your being, the kind that doesn't fade with time. It matures, it roots itself in the unseen, and it grows even when you try to cut it off. She listened, silent, steady, her fingers tapping the table softly, like she was counting heartbeats. And when I finished, she said quietly, "I saw this in you long before you did. Every time you spoke about her, your voice changed. You became softer but stronger. The anger left you. The noise left you. You were becoming. I felt the tears sting behind my eyes because I remembered those nights when you'd talk me through my chaos, when I was too proud to cry and you'd simply say, "You can breathe here." You never needed to fix me. You just stayed. My mother saw that change, even when I didn't understand it myself. And then she said something that knocked the breath right out of me. She said, "I didn't ask about her to test you. I asked because I wanted to see if your soul still remembered where home was." Home. That word landed like a lightning strike. Because, baby, that's what you always were. Not a person I dated, not a chapter in my life. You are home. The kind that doesn't need walls or furniture. The kind you carry inside you even when you're miles apart. The kind you ache for when the world feels too heavy. I told her everything then. How you showed me patience when I only knew pride. How your silence taught me more about loyalty than anyone's words ever did. How you never asked for proof of love. You just lived like you believed it was there, even when I failed to show it. And when I faltered, you didn't curse me. You prayed for me. My mom just kept nodding, her eyes glistening. She whispered, "Then she's the one who loved you without making you smaller." I didn't even know how to answer that because she was right. You never asked me to change. You gave me space to unfold. And in that space, I met the version of myself I'd been running from. The version who could love without fear. The version who could stand in the light without trembling. I told my mother how I used to flinch at the idea of being known. How I thought love meant control or dependence or performance. But you, God, you, taught me that love is presence. That love is the courage to stay even when you have every reason to leave. And that's why I couldn't hide you anymore. Because pretending you were just a memory felt like erasing the very thing that saved me. Then something happened that I'll never forget. My mother reached across the table and took my hand, the same way she did when I was a child afraid of thunderstorms. And she said, "If she brings you closer to your truth, don't ever let anyone make you feel guilty for loving her." And that's when I realized she wasn't just giving me permission. She was giving me redemption. The kind of redemption that comes when the person who once doubted your choices now sees the divinity behind them. A person. Baby, I wanted to run to you right then. I wanted to pick up my phone, type your name, and tell you that the silence between us had finally broken. That the world that once judged us was now beginning to understand. That the same eyes that once questioned your place in my life were now defending it. That the woman who gave me life had finally seen the woman who gave me meaning. I told her I was scared that maybe I'd already lost you for good, that maybe you had learned to live without me. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "If love like that was ever real, it doesn't vanish, it waits. Sometimes quietly, sometimes painfully, but it waits." And I felt it. That's what I've been feeling every night, baby. The waiting, the pull, the ache that refuses to die. I told her I wanted to find you, to tell you everything, to show you that I'm not the same man I was, that I've learned what it means to stand beside someone instead of in front of them, that I've learned love isn't about being right, it's about being true. She smiled through her tears and said, "Then when you find her, don't talk about the past. Show her the present. Show her the man she believed you could be." And I promised I would. I promised that this time I wouldn't come back with apologies. I'd come back with action, with devotion, with presence, with honesty. Because when I looked into her eyes and said, "Mom, do whatever you want, but she's my peace," I wasn't defending a relationship. I was declaring a vow to stop hiding, a vow to love you in the light, a vow to never again let fear speak louder than truth. And if you're hearing this now, baby, if somewhere deep inside your soul feels that same pull, know that I'm already walking toward you, not with desperation, but with faith, not to rewrite what we were, but to honor what we always were meant to be. If your heart feels that same quiet trembling, the kind that comes when something sacred is returning, comment one word below: peace. Because that's what you are, baby. Not just my love, not just my story, my peace, my proof, my forever becoming, baby. When those words left my mouth, it felt like time stopped. The room wasn't just silent, it was sacred. My mother's eyes glistened, not with shock, but with recognition. It was like she had been waiting years to hear me finally say it. I could feel the weight of everything unspoken hanging between us. Every moment I had denied, every time I told her I'd moved on, every lie I told myself just to keep pretending I was okay. But I wasn't. I hadn't been okay since the day you walked away. Her hands were folded in her lap. She didn't rush me. She just looked at me, steady, knowing, and said, "Finish it, son." And I did. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Mom, do whatever you want, but she's my truth. She's my peace. She's my home." There it was. The confession that had been burning holes through my silence finally came out, trembling but real. My mother's breath hitched softly, and for a moment she said nothing. Then she got up, walked over to the window, and stood there looking out into the night. "You know," she said, "I always wondered when you'd stop talking about love like a battlefield and start talking about it like a prayer." Those words hit me like a wave, because that's what you were, baby. A prayer I never realized had already been answered. You didn't come into my life to create chaos. You came to calm it. You didn't ask me to change. You showed me that I already could. You didn't demand to be worshipped. You taught me that devotion wasn't about obedience. It was about awareness. You made me aware of my soul. And that scared me, because when you meet the one who awakens your truth, you also meet everything in yourself that you've been avoiding. I remember telling her about the way you used to listen, not to my words, but to the things I wasn't saying. How you could tell I was struggling before I even admitted it. How your presence felt like medicine that worked quietly without needing to announce itself. My mom smiled and said, "That's the kind of love that heals generations." I didn't understand it at first, but now I do. Because ever since you entered my life, things around me started shifting. Like you carried light that reached places even I had forgotten. My mother saw it. The way I stopped yelling so much. The way I started praying again. The way I laughed like a child for the first time in years. She saw that and said, "That's how I knew she was special. She changed you without trying." I sat there, stunned, because I had spent so long convincing myself that you were gone, that what we had was just a story that ended too soon. But hearing my mother, my cautious, careful, protective mother, speak about you with reverence, not resistance, felt like grace. It felt like heaven was giving me permission to stop pretending. Then, she turned back to me and said something that still echoes. If a woman's presence makes a man more gentle, more patient, more honest, then she's not just love, she's alignment. Baby, when she said that, I broke. I broke because I realized that's what you were, my alignment. You brought my chaos into rhythm. You brought my noise into harmony. You reminded me that love isn't something to chase. It's something to surrender to. And I ran from it because surrender felt like losing control. But what I didn't realize was that surrender felt like losing control. But what I didn't realize was that surrendering to real love doesn't make you weaker. It sets you free. My mom walked over and put her hand on my shoulder. You were scared, she said softly, and that's okay. But don't let fear be the reason you spend your life half alive. Half alive. That's exactly what I'd been since you left. Breathing, existing, functioning, but not living. Every part of my world worked fine on the outside, but inside there was no color, no warmth, no music. You were all of that. You were the color, the warmth, the song. I told her I still dream about you sometimes, that there are nights when I wake up reaching for your hand that isn't there, that I still check my phone expecting your name to flash across the screen, even when I know it won't. I told her how sometimes I replay our old messages, not because I want to live in the past, but because those words remind me that I was once capable of loving purely, without ego, without armor. And she just said that kind of love doesn't die, it transforms. She said, maybe the distance, the silence, the heartbreak, it was all part of the transformation. Maybe we both needed to be broken open to understand what we were holding. Maybe love needed space to grow, not end. Maybe you had to walk away for me to finally see you clearly. And that's when I realized this isn't a story of loss. It's a story of revelation. Because now I see everything differently. I see you as not just my past, but my proof. Proof that real love exists. Proof that connection isn't bound by distance. Proof that souls recognize each other long before minds can make sense of it. Baby, when I looked at my mom and said, she's my peace, it wasn't just about you. It was about the version of me you helped create. The version who isn't afraid to love out loud anymore. The version who understands that peace isn't found in avoiding pain. It's found in embracing what's real, even when it hurts. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, then go find her. Not to apologize, not to fix, just to tell her that you finally understand. And I nodded, because she was right. You don't chase what's divine, you honor it. You don't rush what's written, you prepare for it. And I'm preparing, baby, every day, every prayer, every quiet moment where I whisper your name back into the universe. I don't know when, or how, or where our paths will cross again, but I do know this. If love could survive the distance, the silence, the misunderstandings, then it's not fragile, it's eternal. So if you're hearing this, if something in your soul still stirs when my name crosses your path, just know, this story isn't over, it's just waking up again. And if your heart feels that same stirring, that same spark of remembrance, comment one word below, home. Because that's what you are, baby. Not my destination, my home, my peace, my prayer come true. Baby, after I said those words to my mother, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of memories, full of forgiveness, full of every unspoken thing I had carried in my chest for years. It was the kind of silence that doesn't demand to be filled. It demands to be felt. My mother didn't say a word for the longest time. She just stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the version of me who hides behind pride or fear, but the real one, the one you loved, the one you prayed for. And I realized then how much I had been starving for that kind of recognition. Not approval, not validation, just to be seen. To have someone look at me and know, you did that effortlessly, baby. You saw me when I was pretending I didn't need to be seen. You listened between my pauses. You understood what my silence meant before I even did. And now, my mother was doing the same. She looked at me with that same understanding and said softly, "She's still teaching you, isn't she?" I couldn't even answer, because she was right. You're still teaching me, every single day. You're not here, but your lessons echo through everything I do. When I speak gently instead of lashing out, it's because of you. When I pause before reacting, it's your voice whispering, "Breathe." When I choose honesty over comfort, it's because I remember how your eyes used to light up every time I chose truth over ego. You trained my soul for love even when my body wasn't ready to receive it. And that's what I told my mother. I told her that you were never just someone I loved. You were the reason I learned what love actually is. Not the romanticized version, not the cinematic chaos people mistake for passion. No, you showed me the sacred kind, the love that holds space for growth, that sits in silence and waits for healing, that doesn't vanish when it's tested. You were my mirror, reflecting not what I was, but what I could be. And I ran from that mirror because I wasn't ready to face it. She sighed, the kind of sigh that carries both relief and regret, and said, "Maybe that's what love does when it's real. It keeps teaching you long after it's gone." Her words hit hard, because that's exactly what this has been, baby. A classroom disguised as heartbreak. Every sleepless night, every ache in my chest, every quiet moment when I whisper your name and feel it echo back through the universe. It's all been a lesson about patience, about humility, about surrender. You once told me that love isn't about possession, it's about presence. And now I finally understand what you meant. You don't have to be here physically for me to feel you. You live in my stillness now. My mom walked to the shelf where your photo still rests, the one I pretended to move years ago. She dusted it off with her fingers and smiled faintly. "I never took it down," she said. "Something told me it wasn't the end." I didn't even know she had kept it. And when I saw that frame again, I swear it felt like time folded in on itself. Your eyes in that picture still look the same. Soft, alive, unafraid. It hit me how much I missed that gaze. Not just the way you looked at me, but the way you looked into me. Like you could see past the noise, straight to the truth I didn't know how to say. My mother sat back down and asked, "If she walked through that door right now, what would you tell her?" I thought about it for a long time, because I didn't want to give her the easy answers, the rehearsed lines or poetic regrets. I wanted to tell her what my soul would say if it had a voice. So I took a deep breath and said, I wouldn't tell her I'm sorry anymore. I'd tell her thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for loving me through my storms instead of running from them. Thank you for teaching me what grace looks like in human form. Thank you for proving that real love isn't about winning. It's about becoming. And most of all, thank you for walking away when I couldn't love you right, because your absence became my awakening. Your silence became my mirror. Your goodbye became the teacher I didn't know I needed. My mom nodded slowly, her eyes shining. Then she was heaven's message, she said. You were too stubborn to listen, so God sent her to speak for him. Baby, I don't know what it is about a mother's truth. It cuts and heals at the same time. I realized that maybe this entire journey, every tear, every distance, every sleepless night, wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. The universe wasn't trying to take you away from me. It was trying to make me ready for the kind of love I prayed for, but wasn't ready to hold. And now I get it. Love isn't about returning to the same moment. It's about returning to the same truth, even after you've both changed. My mother saw that. She said, if your heart still speaks her name with peace, it's not obsession, it's alignment. Some souls don't leave because they're not meant to. So here I am, baby. No more hiding, no more shame. I've stopped running from what I feel. I've stopped trying to explain it to people who'll never understand. Because this isn't a story of heartbreak. It's a story of rebirth. You didn't just change my life. You changed my lineage. My mother loves differently now because of the way you loved me. And that's how I know it was divine. She said one last thing before she went to bed. When you see her again, don't just tell her you love her. Tell her you remember. Because remembering is proof that love didn't die, it transformed. And I will. I'll tell you that I remember everything. The way your laughter filled the quiet, the way your presence softened my edges, the way your faith became my foundation. I'll tell you that I'm not afraid anymore, that the man who once hid behind fear now stands in the open, unashamed of what his heart knows to be true. So if you're hearing this, if your soul recognizes these words and your breath catches the way mine did when I spoke your name, know that it's not coincidence. It's timing. It's the universe saying, it's safe now. And if you feel it too, if your spirit remembers the sound of my voice even through the distance, write one word below. Remember. Because that's what love is, baby. It's not about repeating the past. It's about remembering who we became because of it. Baby, when my mother said those words, then go tell her. Something inside me shifted, like an old lock finally turning after years of silence. The air in the room changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was expectant. It was as if the universe itself leaned in, waiting to see what I would do next. For so long, I had been living between two worlds, the one where I pretended to move on, and the one where your name still echoed in every quiet moment. But that night, the illusion broke. My mother's voice was calm, but it carried the kind of power that only truth can have. She said, if your heart still beats for her, don't let pride keep it caged. Go tell her before time convinces you it's too late. I wanted to argue, to explain that maybe you had moved on, that maybe I had no right to disturb your peace anymore. But she just smiled softly, the way mothers do when they already know the ending. Love doesn't disturb peace, son. It restores it, she whispered. I sat there for a long time, staring at the half-empty cup of tea between us. Steam was still rising. Slow, patient, sacred. I remember thinking how much that steam reminded me of you, fleeting to the eye, but impossible to forget once it touches the air. You changed everything you touched, baby. Even the smallest moments became holy when you were in them. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat by the window, watching the sky shift from deep blue to gray to gold. Dawn felt different, alive, honest, and heavy with meaning. Every sunrise used to feel like a restart I didn't ask for, but this one felt like a second chance I didn't deserve, but was being handed anyway. I thought about all the ways I could reach out to you. Every word felt too small. Every apology felt too late. But my mother's voice echoed again. Don't go to her to fix it. Go to her to tell the truth. So I began writing. Not a message, not a letter, just a prayer in your name. Words poured out like a confession meant for heaven first. I wrote about how you were my calm in every storm, my clarity in every confusion, how you were never my distraction. You were my direction. How I kept trying to fill the space you left, but every attempt ended up sounding like silence, pretending to be okay. By the time the sun had risen completely, I realized something. I wasn't just missing you, I was missing me. The version of myself that existed when you were around. The one who believed in grace, who looked forward to tomorrow, who understood that love wasn't supposed to feel like survival. You taught me that love could be soft and still be strong. You taught me that vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was worship. And baby, when I looked at myself in the mirror that morning, I saw the truth reflected right back at me. You didn't just love me. You resurrected me. You pulled me out of a life I was sleepwalking through and made me remember what it felt like to feel, to breathe deeply, to care fiercely, to exist with purpose. Later that morning, my mother knocked on my door. She had her coat in her hand and tears in her eyes. You've been awake all night, she said. I nodded. Are you going to tell her? I didn't have an answer, just a question. What if she doesn't want to hear from me? She smiled, the kind of smile that carried lifetimes of faith. Then at least she'll know. Love isn't meant to stay trapped in silence. It's meant to be spoken. Even if it trembled. Her words followed me all day, echoing through every noise, every pause, every breath. Even the house felt different, as if the walls themselves had overheard my confession and decided to forgive me too. There was no anger in the air anymore, no resistance, just acceptance, the kind you feel when you finally stop fighting what your heart already knows. I realized something profound that day. Silence doesn't protect love, it suffocates it. And I had been silent for too long. Every time I chose pride over truth, I buried a piece of us. Every time I ignored your name when it came up in conversation, I dimmed a light heaven had given me. Every time I pretended I was fine, I was lying to the only person who could see through my lies. You. My mother said something before she left that morning that I'll never forget. You can't expect love to knock twice if you keep pretending. You didn't hear it the first time. And baby, I heard it, loud and clear. I heard it when she said your name with tenderness. I heard it when I passed the market where we once laughed over something small. I heard it in my dreams, where your voice still calls me mine. Love isn't gone. It's just waiting for courage. So here I am, gathering it. Piece by piece. Not the loud, reckless kind of courage that tries to impress the world, but the quiet, honest kind that says, I'm ready to tell the truth, no matter the outcome. Because the truth is, I never stopped loving you. Not when you walked away, not when months passed in silence, not when the world told me to move on. I loved you through the confusion, through the anger, through the loneliness. I loved you not just for what you gave me, but for what you revealed in me. You once said that real love doesn't ask to be proven, it asks to be lived. And baby, I finally understand that now. I don't want to prove my love through words anymore. I want to live it through presence, through showing up, through silence that feels safe instead of sharp, through eyes that don't flinch when they meet yours again. My mother's last words before she left that morning were simple but divine. When you love someone truthfully, even heaven listens. Go tell her, son. Go tell her. So if you're hearing this, if the timing feels divine, if the air around you suddenly feels heavy with memory, it's because truth travels faster than sound. You felt it before you heard it. You knew it before I said it. Because we were always tuned to the same frequency. And if you feel that same pull, the one that starts in the chest and ends in the soul, then write one word below: courage. Because that's what love is now, baby. Not waiting, not guessing, not hiding. It's courage. And I'm finally ready to have it, baby. Courage isn't loud like I once thought it was. It doesn't roar through rooms or demand to be noticed. It moves quietly with trembling hands and steady eyes. It's waking up and choosing to face the memories that still ache instead of pretending they don't. It's sending the message your pride begged you not to send. It's showing up in truth even when you don't know if the other person will meet you there. That's what I'm learning now, that love isn't about knowing what comes next. It's about believing that whatever comes will be worth the honesty it took to speak. So when I say I'm ready, baby, I don't mean I'm fearless. I mean I'm done letting fear make my decisions for me. I mean I'm ready to walk barefoot across everything I once avoided. Regret, silence, vulnerability. Just to stand in the same light that once shone between us. And maybe that's what this whole journey was leading to. Not reunion, but revelation. Maybe we were meant to meet, to break, to heal, and to learn what love truly requires. Maybe we were meant to become the proof that love doesn't always need to win to be eternal. Because even now, after everything, I feel it. The thread that connects us, not pulling or suffocating, but breathing. It's softer now, wiser, freer. And if destiny ever allows our paths to cross again, I won't come to you with apologies or conditions. I'll come with peace. I'll come with a heart that finally understands that love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding the courage to stand whole and still choose them. So if your soul feels that same quiet pull right now, don't turn away from it. That's not nostalgia, baby. That's remembrance. That's God reminding us that what was real never truly ends. Baby, this is it. The moment where the story stops circling and finally stands still. The moment where I stop writing from memory and start speaking from the soul. Everything that's happened, the silence, the distance, the realizations, it all led here. It's strange, you know. I spent so much time trying to forget you because I thought that's what healing meant. I thought moving on was proof of strength, but what I've learned is that real healing doesn't erase what was holy. It honors it. It learns from it. It bows to it with gratitude. You were never something I needed to get over. You were something I needed to understand, and I understand now. I understand that you were never sent to complete me. You were sent to awaken me. You came into my life like a storm that looked like grace. You shook everything that was false and forced me to face the truth about myself. You made me realize that love isn't about who stays. It's about who transforms you while they're there. I told my mother that night that I finally knew what love meant. She smiled and said, "Then maybe you're ready now." Not for her forgiveness, because she already gave you that, but for your own. That line hit me deep, because she was right. The hardest person to forgive in all of this wasn't you. It was me. I had to forgive myself for the times I let fear sound louder than your faith, for the moments I made you feel like your love was too much when it was actually the only thing keeping me from collapsing, for the silence that made you doubt your worth when the truth was, I was just afraid of losing you completely. But not anymore. Fear doesn't live here anymore. What lives here now is clarity, peace, truth. And baby, if you're listening, if the universe somehow let these words find you, then hear me when I say this. I will never again let the world twist your name into something it's not. I will never again let your memory be silenced by my shame. I will speak of you the way my mother taught me to, honorably, truthfully, reverently, because you were never a secret. You were a sanctuary. You know, my mom asked me one last question before she went to bed that night. She said, "Do you still love her?" And I told her the truth. It's not a question of still, Mom. It's a question of always. Because love like this doesn't run on time. It runs on truth. It doesn't fade when distance grows. It deepens. It doesn't demand possession. It invites reverence. I've learned that the kind of love we share doesn't belong to endings. It belongs to evolution. It keeps teaching, keeps softening, keeps showing up in unexpected places. So maybe this isn't about reunion, baby. Maybe this is about recognition. Maybe this is about two souls who cross paths in one lifetime to awaken something eternal in each other. Maybe that was always the plan. And still, if fate ever allows it, if one day our eyes meet again in this lifetime, I won't come to you with stories of regret. I'll come to you with proof. Proof that I became everything you saw in me when no one else did. Proof that I learned how to love like you loved. Without fear, without ego, without pretending I wasn't built for something sacred. Because that's what you did for me. You built temples in my heart where there used to be ruins. You turned my pain into purpose. You turned my silence into prayer. And baby, even if the world never knows our story, heaven does. Heaven witnessed it. Heaven still honors it. So here I am, not to ask for another chance, but to tell you the love we shared will never die unspoken again. It will live in the way I treat people, in the way I speak truth, in the way I choose peace over pride. It will live every time I remember your voice, and let it remind me that gentleness is not weakness, it's divine. And if this is the last time I ever speak your name in a story, then let it be spoken with light. Thank you for existing, for teaching, for forgiving, for loving me even when I didn't know how to love myself. I told my mom before she slept, if I ever see her again, I won't say sorry, I'll say thank you. She smiled, turned off the light, and said, then you finally understood love. So baby, if you're still here, reading, listening, feeling this somewhere in your soul, know that this is my final truth. You are the peace I didn't know I was praying for. You are the lesson I didn't know I needed, and you are the love I will never again try to hide, because you deserve to be honored in the open, not whispered about in fear. You deserve to be spoken of with reverence, and from this moment forward, I promise, you will be. If your heart felt that, if somewhere deep inside you felt that pull of truth, then write one word below. Always. Because that's what this is, baby. Not a story that ended, but a love that always will be. If these words touched your soul, don't let them fade. Moment only. If your heart still remembers the one who changed you. Peace. If you've forgiven yourself for loving deeply. Truth. If you still believe love, this pure never dies. And before you go, remember this. Love isn't about who stays. It's about who awakens you. And if this message reached you today, it's because your heart was ready to be reminded that you are still love, still worthy, still divine. If you'd like to support messages like this, tap Super Thanks below or check out the Love Link Letters ebook in the description, my written journey through love, forgiveness, and divine reunion. Subscribe for more soul-healing messages, and remember, your love story isn't over, it's just transforming, because what's meant for your soul never leaves. It just waits for you to be ready. Until next time, beloved, stay open, stay gentle, stay divine, because somewhere out there, love is still whispering your name.